Hello all YouTubers, I am the Weather Dude. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Thank you for tuning into this October weather pattern discussion for September 27th, 2000. Before I get on with today's video, however, if you guys want to stay up to date with the latest forecast and best forecast from the Weather Dude, then please, every single one of you that is not subscribed, please click the subscribe and the ring and the notification bell so you guys stay up to date with the latest The Weather Dude content. And also, please watch the whole video. Thank you guys so much, by the way, for 1,000 subscribers. It really does mean a lot to me. And this is taking the next step towards monetization, so please watch the whole video. It really does help out my channel a lot. And also, please give this video a like and share this with your friends. Thank you. Now let's get on with today's video. So today we're going to be talking about the October 2020 weather pattern. This isn't necessarily my forecast for the month of October. However, I'm going to be discussing the weather patterns and what we could be seeing, especially for the first half of October. I'll really be focusing on that today, so that's how far out most of these models go. I'm going to talk about the pattern for the east and the west, particularly focusing on the east and the cold weather we're going to be seeing for the east. The last one I did that was similar to this a couple days ago, a few days ago, is more centered on the snowfall forecast. But I'm going to talk about the overall weather pattern in this video as well. Now, something that really determines the weather we could be seeing are two things: the Arctic oscillation and the North Atlantic oscillation. Now, when you look at the forecast here, now a negative, basically you see this black line that goes across the middle here, all right, and this is the Arctic oscillation. When we have a negative phase, that means cooler air for the east and warmer air for the west. Same thing if the NAO was negative, all right. Negative NAO and negative AO result in very similar effects here: cold for the east and warm for the west. So when we're looking at the forecast here for the AO, you see how it really plummets down, especially towards the beginning of October. We see a really deep plunge in the AO and Arctic oscillation. That means some cold air will be sent down through the east. But mainly, ever since the end of May, it's pretty much been hovering around the zero line. We've been seeing some more drastic ups and downs lately, but it really has been hovering near zero. So Arctic oscillation hasn't changed much, but the ensemble models are forecasting a big drop, and that could potentially signal maybe some colder air for the east. But then we also have to look at the NAO. North Atlantic oscillation is also another one to look at. And the ensemble models, for the most part, are also calling for it to be below the zero line, unlike it has been, right? A lot of times it's been positive, actually. Negative from June and July. But like I said, it's not just going to be any cold air in July anyway because it's summer. But now that we're getting into the fall and the winter, this is where you have to start looking at these kind of oscillations here. All right, so these next few maps are going to be like Climate Prediction Center maps. Kind of be showing you guys. So from October 3rd to October 7th, you can see the odds, the probabilities that they have for cold air. The darker blues doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be colder than the lighter blues. It just means that the confidence is higher for colder air. All right, just keep that in mind. But still, look at this. We're talking about anywhere from closer to 90% chance of colder air. Meanwhile, the West has 80% chance of warmer air. So it's a pretty big difference. Split down the middle, literally down the middle of the country is where you're going to have your more average chances for temperatures, or it could even be going up and down between warm and cold. Eastern North Dakota, South Dakota, Nebraska, Western Kansas, Central Texas are kind of like split down the middle. And then we got Alaska also will be on the warmer side. Now that's October 3rd through October 7th. That's temperature. Precipitation, precipitation will be dry for the most part, all right. That La Nina really starting to take effect here, with the exception of Central and South Florida, as well as Alaska is also an exception for some potentially wetter times there. Now we take a look at the temperature outlook from October 5th to October 11th. Notice how the warm air takes over parts of the central and western U.S., but the mid-Atlantic and southeast and even the Tennessee Valley, we're still noticing anywhere from 33 to 40, or even closer to 50% chance of below normal temperatures. Central and southern Florida, maybe around 40% chance for warmer temperatures. Alaska could, according to this, also be on the warmer side potentially. Now, again, looking at the precipitation, most part it's going to be dry. Maybe, again, Central and South Florida could be a little bit wet. Western Alaska will be dry. Maybe even the northwestern United States and the island chain, or the extreme southeastern part of Alaska, could be a little bit wet as well. All right, but again, that's a very slight possibility. Then you look at their overall monthly October forecast, and this is why I really don't understand the Climate Prediction Center. Now keep in mind this was made 10 days ago, all right, but it's still relatively up to date. They don't come out with these forecasts too often. Actually, probably in a couple of days, they'll come out with their next outlook for October, and maybe it'll change. Usually, they come out with one in the beginning or the middle, or maybe in the end of the month, because it really doesn't make sense how they're calling for cooler air, and then all of a sudden you look at their overall monthly forecast, which is why I don't like it, and they call for warmer air for the entire country. You still have to factor in those first 2 weeks of October. Northwest United States, equal chances. Alaska could be a little bit warmer according to this, but hopefully in a couple days we'll get an update from that. And then precipitation from it, dry for central and southern part of the plains and the southeast coast, northwest coast, and western parts of Alaska could be a little bit more on the wet side. All right, now that we've gotten through that, here's the fun part. Here's where we take a look at the models. Hopefully you guys have made it this far. All right, encourage yourself to keep watching the whole video. Thank you guys. And we're going to be taking a look at the CFS model here and kind of take a look at those 500 millibar height anomalies. Now this doesn't necessarily represent temperature. This more so represents like kind of like the jet stream patterns and like where we have like, for example, we got our low pressure systems here. I will be changing colors pretty often because I actually want to draw out like the low pressure we can be seeing here, maybe a larger storm possible. All right, and then we have a high pressure kind of building over here, but I'm sure it's well far to the north. But then we have a nice heat dome building across the west, some hotter and drier times. Also, we have our cooler and wetter times for the eastern United States, as you can see here. All right, so now that's through the 27th, which is basically now through October 4th. Still the same could be said maybe for the 4th to the 11th. All right, maybe a little mini low sits there, and then we got, again, then we have our high pressure system that's kind of sitting up here, really with that rising jet stream helping to build that huge heat dome across the western parts of the United States. All right, then eventually, according to the CFS model, which does normally have a bias, so it's nice that they're leaning towards the other side a little bit. They're pretty much calling for back to normal, maybe a little bit warmer even by mid to late October. But again, now we're getting a little bit farther out in time. We really shouldn't be so certain of that yet. We're focusing on basically the first week or first 10 days or so of October, now until then. So here's where the cold air is now. Not quite on the East Coast yet. It's more so in the central part of the United States. I mean, even parts of the southern plains in the southeast, talk about maybe as much as, in those slightly lavender colors, maybe as much as 5 to 7 Celsius below average, which is more than 10 degrees Fahrenheit below average. Then once it gets to the east, here's October 4th to October 11th. Cold air arrives in the east. Lows in some spots, especially in those more mountainous locations, could plunge well into the 30s. Maybe for the northern plains, 20s and teens in some spots, especially like Duluth gets really cold. All right, so that's also a possibility. Then it kind of fades away a little bit, but with the southeast still got a little bit of colder air trying to linger in through October 18th, but then eventually gets taken over. Now the precipitation, right? If we get really cold air in October and above average precipitation, we can manage to squeeze out some snow, right? It's happened. Eastern Seaboard, I know places like Philly, New York, and DC, or earlier snowfall was like the first, I think it was like October 10th, 1979. Anywhere between like October 7th and 13th. All right, of 1979. So it has happened. It's been 41 years, but it has happened. So, and it's the exact time of year too, right? That beginning of October, but usually it doesn't happen. Maybe even November if you're lucky. So we have the wetter than normal conditions through October 4th, right? But keep in mind, the eastern seaboard is still warm then, so it's gonna be more warm and wet. By the time the cold air comes in, though, then it gets dry. So we need that colder air and that moist air to line up. And sadly, that's not going to happen. Much of the country will actually have, pretty much the entire country will be below normal precipitation, according to the CFS model, 4th to the 11th. Even though it's going to be a lot cooler, for the east at least, it's going to be a lot drier as well. And then 11th to the 18th, dry air. And then sure enough, once the warm air starts to come back, or so they say, then the average precipitation and even wetter than average precipitation starts to return. Of course, right? Just on time. So it's kind of sad. But hopefully, don't worry. I mean, it's not even, fall literally just started a few days ago. So you got plenty of the season to go. Now, GFS model snowfall through October 13th at 8 a.m. Downwind of the Great Lakes, even parts of mountainous locations in upstate New York, Vermont, New Hampshire. They're actually calling for anywhere from 1 to as much as 5 inches of snow. So that's pretty exciting for places up there, according to the GFS. That could be mixed with some sleet, though, as well. And then we got, parts of the Rockies. Maybe we could see a couple inches. Not out of the question. Now, GEFS ensemble is kind of saying the same thing here, right? How it kind of fizzles away by the time we head towards mid-October, but that dip in the jet stream coming over the eastern United States is going to result in cool air lasting from the 29th to the 4th, maybe lasting as long as October 13th. We'll see. The cold air is barely hanging on till then. Then in the west, though, notice how when the cold air fizzles in the east, the warm air does not fizzle in the west, right? They don't both fizzle out. Even if the warm air were to fizzle in the west, I don't think the cold air in the east would start fizzling out either. That heat dome is going to win this battle here, potentially, and make its way through the eastern United States, possibly. The heat dome could also weaken by the time it gets to the east, because I'm not saying it can't get warm still this time of year, but, we're starting to get pretty cold in parts of the east, so the heat dome would probably start fading away. I mean, if this was winter, it'd be a lot different as well. All right, so let's take a look at the precipitation. Again, above average precipitation now, which is exciting, but it's still warm, so we can't really get any snow out of that, which is pretty sad. Potentially, the wetter than normal conditions could last through October 6th, potentially. And if we get that cold air to line up, I'm not saying it's going to be snow, but we could come close, right? But close isn't enough. All right, it's either rain, ice, or snow, right? There's really no in between. All right, then the dry air kicks in, but they're calling for actually more average temperatures for the Northeast, or average precipitation and below normal temperatures, which you can't go wrong with that. But there's also a lot of dry air in place for most of the United States. And finally here, surprise, European model. We all love the European model, right? So the jet stream pattern for the European model, again, big dip in the jet stream, right? When you do enter that dip in the jet stream, the cold air is going to start coming in. Batch number 1 lifts up to the north, and then we get our next little plunge that comes in the beginning of October, and that's going to really send us the cold air. I think that's been the main theme here. All right, even through October 5th, you still got a nice dip in the jet stream there, so that's pretty exciting. And then our snowfall through the next 10 days with the European, if you're lucky, an inch or 3 inches through, actually, barely a trace, actually, for New York and Vermont. Maybe Mount Washington, New Hampshire, in the observatory, maybe a few inches there, maybe 5 inches. And then we got a hint of snowfall for the Rockies as well. But it's a sign. It's starting to come in, right? Even Duluth could see upwards of an inch of snow. All right, so that's pretty exciting. And they're even calling for a dusting through the Dakotas. Don't worry. In the next couple months, this will definitely be filling in a lot more. So thank you guys for watching today's video. If you haven't checked out my Invest 94E forecast video, please consider doing so. I am the Weather Dude, signing off till next time. Stay awesome, and I will catch you guys in the next video.